Welcome back to Take the Leap Management, the podcast where we explore the ideas, theories, and frameworks that have shaped leadership, management, and organizational success throughout history. Today, we're going way back to one of the earliest and most debated leadership theories of all time, the Great Man Theory. This theory has played a significant role in shaping our understanding of leadership, influencing generations of scholars, executives, and managers. But does it still hold up in today's complex and rapidly evolving world? Can leadership really be something that only a select few are born with, or is it something that can be learned, developed, and cultivated over time? That's what we're going to explore today. The Great Man Theory emerged in the 19th century, largely shaped by the work of historian Thomas Carlyle. Carlyle argued that history is shaped by great leaders, extraordinary individuals who, through their intelligence, charisma, wisdom, and courage, shape the course of events. According to this theory, leaders are born, not made. They naturally possess the qualities required for leadership, and these qualities set them apart from the rest of the population. This perspective aligns with the way many historical figures have been portrayed as larger-than-life figures who single-handedly changed history through sheer willpower and innate ability. When we look at historical narratives, we often see this perspective reinforced. Think about figures like Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Napoleon Bonaparte, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, and even modern business leaders like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. These individuals are often described as having an almost mythical quality, a natural brilliance that positioned them as leaders destined for greatness. The Great Man Theory suggests that if these individuals had not been born, history might have taken a completely different course. The appeal of this theory is understandable. People like stories of heroes, the idea that leadership is something that some people are just destined for, rather than something that is developed over time. It simplifies the complexity of leadership into a narrative of inevitability, suggesting that leaders emerge when they are most needed, and that their rise is a matter of fate rather than effort. But there are problems with this perspective. One of the biggest criticisms of the Great Man Theory is that it ignores the role of environment, context, and opportunity in leadership development. It assumes that leadership is entirely a result of inherent qualities, disregarding the external factors that influence leadership emergence. For example, if Abraham Lincoln had not been born in 1809, would the Civil War still have been fought? Almost certainly. Would another leader have emerged to guide the United States through that crisis? Quite possibly. The Great Man Theory overlooks the role of societal structures, institutions, and historical conditions in shaping leadership opportunities. Another major issue with the theory is that it fails to account for the development of leadership skills over time. Many of the leaders we admire were not born with all of their leadership qualities fully formed. Instead, they grew into their leadership roles, learned from failures, adapted to challenges, and evolved over time. Winston Churchill, for example, was not always seen as a great leader. He faced significant failures in his early political career before rising to prominence during World War II. Similarly, Steve Jobs was fired from Apple in 1985 before returning a decade later as a more refined, strategic leader. These examples suggest that leadership is not just about natural talent, but also about experience, learning, and resilience. If the Great Man Theory were entirely true, it would mean that leadership training, mentorship, and education would be useless, since people would either be born leaders or not. But we know from decades of research that leadership skills can be cultivated. Individuals who may not initially display strong leadership qualities can, over time, develop communication skills, strategic thinking, emotional intelligence, and decision-making abilities that turn them into highly effective leaders. This reality directly contradicts the notion that leaders are simply born with an unchangeable set of qualities. Yet, even though the great man theory has been largely rejected by modern leadership research, its influence still lingers in many areas of society. Many organizations still look for leadership potential based on personality traits rather than proven abilities. Many individuals still believe that some people are just natural-born leaders, while others will never be able to lead. In business, politics, and even sports, we still see the idea that some individuals are simply destined for greatness, despite the evidence that leadership is a skill that can be developed through practice and experience. So, if the great man theory is flawed, why does it still persist? One reason is that it provides a simple explanation for complex events. It's easier to attribute success to a single individual than to recognize the many factors that contribute to leadership effectiveness. It also provides a sense of comfort and predictability. If great leaders are just born that way, then all we need to do is identify them early and put them in positions of power. This is an attractive idea for organizations that want to quickly identify and promote leaders without investing in long-term leadership development programs. Another reason the great man theory persists is that charismatic leaders tend to dominate historical narratives. When we think about major historical events, we remember the individuals who were at the forefront, even though success often depends on an entire network of people working behind the scenes. For example, while Elon Musk is often credited as the genius behind Tesla and SpaceX, the success of those companies depends on thousands of engineers, designers, and strategists who work tirelessly to bring his vision to life. Leadership is rarely a solo endeavor, yet the way we tell stories often reinforces the idea of the single, heroic leader. If we take a step back and look at modern leadership theories, we can see how leadership is now viewed as more nuanced and multidimensional. Rather than assuming that leaders are born with fixed qualities, modern theories emphasize situational leadership, transformational leadership, and servant leadership, all of which recognize that leadership is contextual, adaptive, and based on relationships rather than inherent traits. One of the key takeaways from studying the great man theory is that leadership potential is everywhere. It is not reserved for a select few. While some individuals may naturally possess certain traits that make leadership easier for them, the reality is that anyone can develop leadership skills through dedication, self-awareness, and experience. Organizations that understand this shift invest in leadership development programs, mentorship opportunities, and continuous learning, rather than simply trying to identify so-called natural leaders. So, does this mean the great man theory is completely useless? Not necessarily. While it is outdated in its strictest form, it does offer some valuable insights. First, it reminds us that leaders do play an outsized role in shaping history and business success. Some individuals, because of their unique combination of traits, vision, and circumstances, do rise to positions of extraordinary influence. But rather than seeing these individuals as born leaders, we should view them as people who developed their leadership potential over time and capitalized on the opportunities presented to them. Second, the great man theory highlights the power of perception in leadership. People tend to follow individuals who exude confidence, decisiveness, and vision, qualities that are often associated with natural leaders. While leadership is about more than just charisma, understanding how perception influences followership is an important lesson for any aspiring leader. In the end, the great man theory provides an interesting historical perspective on leadership, but modern research tells us a different story. Leadership is not something you are born with or without. It is something that is developed, refined, and tested through experience. Organizations, teams, and individuals who understand this will focus less on trying to identify natural leaders and more on cultivating leadership at all levels, ensuring that the next generation of leaders is equipped with the skills, mindset, and adaptability needed to succeed. Thank you for joining me on Take the Leap Management. If you found today's discussion valuable, subscribe and share it with your colleagues. Leadership is not just about who you are at birth. It's about the choices you make, the skills you develop, and the impact you create. Let's take the leap together.